Welcome to the Historical Romance Sampler Podcast. I'm your host, Katherine Grant, and each week I introduce you to another amazing historical romance author. My guest reads a little sample of their work, and then we move into a free-ranging interview. If you like these episodes, don't forget to subscribe to the Historical Romance Sampler wherever you listen to podcasts, and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Now, let's get into this week's episode. I'm very excited. Today we have a special episode of the Historical Romance Sampler. Kasia Alba from the podcast Raising Baby Authors is with us to read one of her favorite historical romances and talk to me about the historical romance genre. So, Kasia, I'm so excited that you are here today and we can be co-podcasters talking about historical romance. Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you so much for inviting me. I'm super excited.
So, what are you reading for us today?
All right, so I've got this The Bride Goes Rogue by Joanna Shupe. The couple here is Catherine Delafield and Preston Clark. So I'm going to be reading from the beginning. It's the inciting incident. So the point is that Catherine is engaged to Preston and their parents agreed to it. And she spent a year kind of knowing that she is going to marry this guy, but she let him sort of kind of have his life and sow his wild oats or whatever it's called. And just after a year, she got fed up and she decided to come and talk to him about the wedding. And so she appears at his office. He's like a business mogul. And well, yeah, this is where we start. A man rose from behind the desk. He was every bit as handsome as she remembered. More so, actually. Miss Delafield. Lord, he was even bigger up close. He made her, a woman taller than most, feel tiny. Her chest fluttered as she shook his hand. Hello, Mr. Clark. Thank you, Mrs. Cohen, he said to the secretary, who nodded and closed the door. Then to Catherine. Won't you have a seat? She gracefully lowered herself into a chair, while at the same time taking a peek at the room, curious about her future husband's domain. The office was sparse, with a walnut desk and chairs, bare walls, and a giant safe in the corner. He needed some decorations in here, some artwork at the very least. She put it on her mental list to hang some paintings in his office after the wedding. Something serene and soft like Manet, perhaps. Meeting his gaze, she said, I apologize for coming unannounced like this. I admit my curiosity is piqued. He leaned back in his chair. What may I do for you? She took the list from her journal and handed it to him. Here are the items on which we must decide. I've been pestering my father with these questions, and he suggested I just come see you. So here I am. She gave a small laugh, kind that came out whenever she was nervous. He accepted the paper without looking at it. What questions would those be? Edging forward, she found her pencil and began reading off her notes in a journal. First, I'd like to discuss the time of year. Most people prefer the spring, but I quite like the idea of the fall. September, perhaps. We'll decorate with orange blossoms, of course. He glanced at the paper, his lips parting slightly as he read her list. Wait, what? You're right, she hurried to say. Spring might be better. Let's set that aside and return to it later. Now let's discuss food. I would prefer to hire Louis Sherry over Delmonico's. He grimaced and placed the piece of paper on his desk carefully. A muscle moved in his jaw as he held up a hand. Please, we should talk about this. Would you rather decide on the music? It's unconventional, but I like the idea of a single harpist for the ceremony. You must stop. Uneasiness compounded in her stomach. Men typically didn't participate in wedding preparations, but she hoped to arrange everything to his liking. She wanted to be the perfect wife. I know it seems trivial, silly little things women like me worry about. She lifted a shoulder. But I didn't want to get off on the wrong foot by ignoring your input. That is, unless you prefer for me to make all the decisions. I'm not referring to the plans, per se. I'm referring to the wedding. We're not getting married. Not in the spring, not in the fall. Despite what you have been told, this is not happening. A shiver of fear and embarrassment slid through her. I don't understand. I am not marrying you. But she blinked at him and bit the inside of her cheek. We're betrothed. Our fathers agreed on our marriage years ago. You didn't really believe them, did you? They had no right to make that betrothal on our behalf. This isn't medieval Scotland. We aren't two rival clans that must be joined in marriage to keep the peace. It's nearly the 20th century. I suppose, but I always expected my father would choose my husband. It's how things are done. Not for me, he said firmly. Even if he were alive, I wouldn't allow my father to choose my wife. Air trickled into her too tight lungs, like they'd been wrapped in twine, and a strange ringing started in her ears. Is it because of the way I look? Too tall? Not tall enough? Is my hair too plain? My eyes are too close together, aren't they? Good God, no. It's not about how you look. You're lovely. It's about me. I'm not ready to marry anyone. I may never be ready to marry. Do you understand? There had to be a reason. Most men his age were married. It was what people in their circles did. This doesn't make any sense. Miss Delafield. Catherine, he said, his tone gentle but firm. I apologize, but I cannot marry you. I really am sorry if you believed otherwise, but believe me, this is for your own good. For her own good? He was sorry? This was like a terrible dream, worse than one where she was running and couldn't find her way home. Mouth dry, she swallowed. Perhaps you need more time to come to terms with the idea. I can wait. His lips flattened into a thin line, the skin above his collar turning a deep red. I don't need time, Miss Delafield. Not a year, not a decade. I cannot marry you, ever. Is that clear enough for you? Or shall I write it down in list form? He gestured to her forgotten paper on his desk. Realization hit her like a douse of cold rainwater. She finally understood. He didn't want to marry her. She had been waiting for nothing. Absolutely nothing. For 1 year, she'd believed herself betrothed, putting off her future until he was ready. How silly. How stupid. How naive. Hot prickles gathered behind her eyes, every breath scraping like needles inside her chest. She couldn't pull enough air into her lungs, and the urge to flee overrode everything else. I see. I'm terribly sorry for bothering you. She snapped her journal closed and shot to her feet. I won't trouble you again. Good day, sir. Wait, he called behind her, but she didn't listen. She kept right on walking. She'd already given Preston Clark too much of her time. She wasn't about to waste 1 second more. So that's like, I don't know, that's one of the best meet cutes, if you can call it that, that I've read in a
Mhm.
book. So that's why I really wanted to show it. There's also another kind of part to it, which is her coming back, but it's shown
Mhm.
in his POV. So when he's contemplating what just happened, she storms in back and yells at him because she suddenly decided that it's not enough. She needs to say more.
It's interesting because it's structurally it's the meet cute. But what's so different about it is it's a rejection. And they've met before,
Yeah.
but it's starting the romance with a very clear and kind of unemotional like no, I'm not marrying you. And she was entering not emotional and ends the scene with a lot of emotion. And as a reader, wow. I was feeling that rejection and the humiliation. Oh,
Yeah, yeah, I know. For me, like it was really, I do love a meet cute. I love like meeting in the ballrooms or in the gardens and house parties and stuff. But this was just so unusual on so many levels. So basically, not only do they know each other already, they had this weird understanding that was only one-sided. She was kind of okay with it, but she's not in love with him. Like, she doesn't like him. She's like, okay, he's gonna be my husband because that's the thing. It's what is done. And he doesn't even have any idea that anything is going on. And I really love that you can see through the dialogue who she is, that she thinks in lists, that she likes to organize things, that she's nice, but she's like, "Oh, I'm gonna put some paintings in his office when I'm his wife because this is normal to her." And it's just you can see her personality super well from this scene. I love it.
yeah, it's a very revealing scene. Like I was writing down, oh, she's really competent. She's really accepting of her reality. Oh, wow, she's really demeaning herself. Even before he rejects her, she says, oh, this is just what silly little women think. And then immediately she assumes that she's not pretty. And so it reveals so much about her strengths and then also like, the interior landscape of how she feels about herself. I find it interesting. You said then in the next scene, it's his point of view, and that's when she's yelling at him. As a writer, I always find it interesting to decide what part of the scene or which scenes are told from which point of view. What do you think is significant about having the rejection, him reject her, be from her point of view, but then have her yell at him be from his point of view? Does it give you something new as a reader?
I think, well, to the rejection to be from her point of view makes total sense to me because she's the one who doesn't know, like, the premise of the situation that there is a betrothal. But if we were in his point of view, it would be like, yeah, that's not happening, and that's clear, and we wouldn't see her emotions and how she would feel about it. But then have her come back and yell at him. We don't need to see again what she's feeling when she's yelling at him second time. Like there's no need. We know she's hurt and upset. But his reaction to it and how, because there was something in there of like she stormed into the office like a warrior, and he describes it like she's magnificent and so angry, and like she scared him and she fascinates him. So seeing that he's not like a callous person who hates her. He doesn't hate her, but this is just a situation, and there's already, you can see there's already some attraction to it, some, not like, but he sort of is interested in her and at this point. And that's also good because we, from the like the first scene, what we missed before I read was him being very cruel to one of his, I don't know, clients or something. So you can see that he's a kind of a cruel person. He's dry. He is just business money. He doesn't care about anybody's livelihood. If somebody owes him money, he's gonna get this money. So we needed to see that he has some other feelings, not just being this horrible person. And you can see directly that, oh, this guy will have an arc. Like he needs to get so much better before we can really root for him.
Yeah, that's really interesting. Hey, audiobook listeners, have you checked out the official Historical Romance Sampler Season 1 playlist on Libro.fm? On the playlist, you'll find historical romances you heard here first that are available to listen to on Libro.fm. Plus, if you're not yet a Libro.fm subscriber, use code HISTORICAL to get extra credits in your first month. Head on over to the Historical Romance Sampler Linktree to learn more. So, you read and write widely. What is it that draws you to a historical romance?
I think maybe a big factor there might be that I don't know if you can call it like a first love, because I seriously haven't been reading any romance except for like Jane Austen until 2022, probably. Like, really,
What?
I started reading romance after the second season of Bridgerton came out. I basically got obsessed. Like the first one was good. I watched it, I liked it. And then the second one came out and I watched it once and I watched it twice. And I'm like, this is not enough. I need something else. I went on YouTube and started watching videos about it. And people were saying there in the books it was like that. And in the TV show it's like this. And it's not, it's different in the books. I'm like, what books? And I went and I found the whole series. I read the whole series in like a month, and then I went through the whole Julia Quinn backlist. And then I'm like, whoa, what am I gonna do now? I started looking the authors that she did books with together, like these stories where there are 4 or 5
Anthologies.
stories. Yeah, anthologies from different authors. I started looking into those, and then I discovered Bookstagram and BookTube, and then I'm like, whoa, okay, there's a whole world here. And for some time, for like a year, I haven't touched a contemporary romance at all. I was reading historicals and I was happy with it. I thought I didn't need contemporary at all. Who reads that? This is stupid. And then I think I read a gateway romance, which was the Bromance Book Club by Lisa K. Adams. And only because it had the guys reading a historical romance in the book and then using it to better their relationships. And I was like, whoa, that's interesting. And then from there, I went like Abby Jimenez and like reading others. But still, somehow, I'm pretty sure I will have more luck with any average historical romance I pick than with an average contemporary. I really don't know why. I think, yeah, one thing is angst. Yeah. So, like, Sometimes the conflict in contemporary is just so artificial. Like it's artificial. You don't think like, but yeah, but really that's not a big deal. It's not so bad. You're not going to be ostracized from society from this. It's okay. Relax. But like in historical, sometimes you really feel that, well, this is impossible. What are you going to do? And even sometimes like there are more positive historicals where the ending seems like, whoa, that would never actually work. I mean, it it is a fantasy, but I'm like, no, but in this society, that would never work. So yeah, I mean, like I'm more harsh on the
Yeah.
constraints in the historical, and some archetypes that we fantasize about, like the woman that needs to be saved, damsel in distress and stuff like that. In historicals, often there are a lot of women that are powerful and brave and smart and everything, but sometimes it's just a wallflower that is shy and or a spinster on the shelf, and sometimes it's just nice and pleasant to read something like this, because in contemporary there would be a lot of criticism, or like, come on, like we're in the 21st century, why are you like this? But yeah.
Yeah, I think in contemporary, if you encounter a woman who feels that she needs to be saved, that she can't save herself, there's a sense of, oh, she's giving up power that she already has. Because in theory, we live with more equality. Whereas with historical, the woman who needs to be saved is living with the level of power that she's been given. And anyone who is saving herself is seizing power. And
Yeah.
maybe that's why it feels a little different.
Yeah, I think some of the things that I would like to read about sometimes for comfort in contemporary would be a bit like, well, this heroine is way too weak and the guy is solving all her problems. And I'm like, no, but I want that sometimes.
All right. Well, I'm curious about your experience watching Bridgerton, not even knowing that there were books, and then discovering the books. How similar were they to the TV show since you came to it from the TV show?
I think, well, I started from the beginning, and I think the first, like the Duke and I, was such a revelation to me, because I mean, okay, I we see a lot of sex on TV and there is a lot of nudity scenes and stuff. I had no idea you can write that in books. I I was so naive. I'm like, well, yeah, I read Game of Thrones, but that's different, right? That's often not really pleasant to read, actually, for a woman. And then I'm reading this and I'm like, whoa, you can do that. And there is so much emotion there. And like the first book worked way better for me than the first season, even
Mm,
though I think it's more questionable. Like, there is a bit of an issue with the first book with the consent. I noticed the issue, but still the book worked way better for me. I more like books. Well, Bridgerton season 2 is great. I mean, I'm not saying anything, and I understand why they made the changes. Because basically books 1 and 2 have very similar kind of premise, which is getting married after being discovered. So you don't want to do that twice. So
mm.
that they changed it up. But for me, like in books, I can read 10 of those. I'm gonna be fine with it. And since then, I'm actually I'm very weary of watching romance movies made from the romance novels, because it almost always doesn't correspond to my expectations, and the
Mhm.
emotions are often cheapened, I would say. I don't know. When you describe it in a book, you understand it completely, but when they try to put it onto the screen, I don't know. They make some moves that just make it silly instead of it looks cheesy and it looks weird. I don't know. It might be my prejudice, like against some rom-coms.
They are such different formats. The written form is all about interiority and everything that the person is suppressing and not saying and experiencing inside compared with what they want to be experiencing. And film is about visuals and about people interacting with each other or with the environment. You can't get in their head. So I think that's one of the reasons why there's often things lost in translation because whatever is the interior monologue somehow has to be externalized for the film, and that we humans, we don't actually share what's going on in our interior monologues.
I agree. I think it's either the actor will have to do such hard work to try to like show these emotions with something, or they will try to make it obvious and it's not gonna look good, basically. It's gonna look like too much.
Yeah. Well, I think it's a good time to move to our game, Love It or Leave It. All right. Do you love it or leave it? Protagonists meet in the first 10% of the story.
Oh, love it, of course. I mean, honestly, if they don't meet in the first 10%, what are we actually doing? Is this a romance or what? I like backstory, but I don't want to read like 3 chapters of only backstory of someone. Nah, that's not interesting to me.
All right. Do you love it or leave it? Dual point of view narration.
Yeah, generally, yes, I love it, but I think it depends on the idea that the author wants to bring. Some books work way better where you when you don't know what the other person is thinking. So that's when one POV works perfectly fine. But if there's no reason to hide anything, yeah, dual is great.
All right. Love it or leave it? Third person past tense.
Oh, I mean, historical, of course, love it. Like, I don't even know what would we do with the first person in historical. I had this conversation with a couple of my guests who are historical romance authors, and I'm like, have you ever seen a book written in first person? And they're like, no. Do you want to write one? I don't know. I'm scared. Like, it's really, I don't know. Maybe there is one. Maybe I don't know about it.
There are definitely authors experimenting with it. Vanessa Riley, I think, has been writing first person for a while. Allie Hudson, I just had on my podcast, and she writes in first person. And Lindsay Barrett, that was the other one I had on my podcast who wrote in first person. So there are definitely people playing around with it, but I've also heard that there's a lot of reader pushback on it.
Yeah, they're not used to it, I guess, and it's maybe hard to put yourself. Well, I wanted to say that it's hard to put yourself in the shoes of like 17-year-old, like aristocratic lady, but also like fantasies in first person, and nobody's an elf or fairy. It's fine, you can do it. But I love, I love third person past tense, even in contemporary. I'm perfectly fine with it. I know a lot of people don't like it.
Yeah. All right. Do you love it or leave it? Third act breakup or dark moment?
Oh, definitely love it. I sometimes I read a book that says no third act breakup, and after about 70%, it feels like a huge extended epilogue. I'm like, they're just happy. What am I supposed to do with that now? Like, and I mean, it's okay when there are external circumstances as well, that like kidnappings, some danger that's coming to the heroine or the hero. But I truly actually love when they break up. And I think like yesterday maybe or the day before I listened to the Fated Mates episode about third out breakups, and they explained it perfectly. It's a test for the relationship. If they just started dating and everything's going great, you don't really know if they're gonna be there for the long run, if their relationship would stand the test. But if there is a test for them externally or internally, then they overcome it and you just feel more satisfaction from it. And you know that, whoa, this relationship actually survived this. And I think without it, I don't know what else you can do to make it satisfying in the third act.
Right. All right. Do you love it or leave it? Always end with an epilogue.
I love it actually because I remember a couple of books where it literally ends on I love you too. And I freaking hated that because what do you mean? Like, tell me something else. I love you too. And that's it? Like, come on. It's like a rom-com, they hugged, they kissed. At the end, they took the camera away and showed the whole big shot, and that's it. No, no, that's not enough for me. No.
All right. Do you love it or leave it? Always read the author's note.
Oh yeah, I'm that person. who, if there's an author's note, acknowledgments, anything else, I have to read it. I'm not sure. Like, often it's very interesting, especially in historicals, because there's always like some research notes in there or like some historical details and things like that. Even in contemporary, I read them just because I don't know. I feel like if I don't, I didn't finish a book. It's a very weird feeling. It's like, no, but I didn't finish. I need to listen to to listen or to read this note. I sometimes even read like the excerpts that they put from from the future books. It still feels like I have to read it, even if I don't care about the next book. It's just my tick.
All right. And are there any romance rules I didn't ask about that you enjoy seeing authors break?
To be honest, I kind of like rules. I like when there is structure. I like when there are tropes and the trope actually delivers on what it is, because often people will just name a trope, but then it's not just a word. You need to deliver on it. You need to do what the trope actually says. And the same with like no third up breakup. This is for me the rule that I don't want to be broken, and I'm okay. I'm okay with having it all the time. And I don't know. The only thing is, I think we should be following rules, but we should be finding new ways to follow them. Because if you look at Romancing the Beat, the book with the that it describes the romance structure, if you follow it like to the point, that's still going to be a romance, but it can be very boring romance. I've read some of those which technically they're fine, but like there's nothing new about them, and you need to find new ways to not break rules but follow them in like twisted, interesting ways. I don't know if that's a good answer because I really
I like
am
that answer.
sure.
No, I think that's true. I'm currently reading a John Grisham novel, and I think this is the first John Grisham novel I've read, so I don't really know what to expect from his formula. But I was expecting this good guy character to continue to be a good guy throughout the book, but I'm beginning to suspect that the formula is by the end of the book, he's not a good guy. And
Mhm.
I am really torn. I feel a lot of like actual unease about I don't really want to read about him becoming a bad lawyer, but I also like want to know maybe he becomes a better guy by the end. Like maybe that's the catharsis. And so I've been thinking about how that relates to being a romance reader, and there are certain things that you can count on that you want to count on that Preston is going to become a less cruel person by falling in love with Catherine. like
Yeah.
we know that, and I wouldn't have this existential do I read it or not problem.
Yeah, exactly. I think if any of the very well experienced authors want to break the rules, I think I would trust them with that. I have some trust because I've read their books. I know they can do their job very well. And so that would be okay with me. But there is a lot of like, I'm on a lot of forums and like Facebook groups and stuff. And a lot of people think that they are so clever breaking the rules. And the very popular one is my book is romance, but I want to surprise my readers and not have an HEA at the end. Are you kidding me? You're not rule breaking, you just don't know what romance is. So, yeah, I mean, I think you can break the rules if you want. You just need to learn how to use them first. Have some books, have readers that trust you, and then you can start to experiment. And then I will trust you with this experiment. I don't have to
Yeah.
like it, but at least I will consider it.
Well, Kasia, I really appreciate you playing Love It or Leave It and coming on the podcast. Listeners, just a reminder, she read The Bride Goes Rogue by Joanna Shupe. If you, like me, need to know how they recover from this rejection, I believe it's available anywhere you buy books.
Yes, it's an amazing book. Seriously, I would start from the beginning because Catherine and Preston both appear in the first and second book in the series. But yeah, this one's great.
Awesome. And Kasia, you are host of Raising Baby Authors. What should my listeners know about your podcast, and where can they find it?
Well, so where you can find it is easy. So it's called Raising Baby Authors. It's on YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and I think everywhere where you can find podcasts, more or less. And we don't have a website, but I have my Instagram account, which is at KK Alba Books, just one word. I'll give it to you later. And well, the podcast is for two kinds of listeners. So primarily it's for other authors who kind of want to learn from more experienced authors. Basically, anybody who's published books before can come on the podcast and I will ask them questions about their writing process. And if you are just like interested of how other people do it, is their process similar to yours? Maybe there are some things that you haven't tried. And the other category I would say is maybe your favorite author comes on my podcast and you want to know kind of behind the scenes of how they're creating their stories and characters. So that also could be interesting to you. So yeah, come on my podcast. I hope you enjoy it.
Thank you so much, and thanks for coming on the Historical Romance Sampler.
Thank you for inviting me.
That's it for this week. Don't forget to subscribe to the Historical Romance Sampler wherever you listen, and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube. Until next week, happy reading!